Have you noticed that some of the people you used to talk to every day aren't really in your life anymore? Not because of a falling out, not because of anything dramatic. They're just not there the way they used to be. Come in. Pull up a chair. I want to talk about what happens to friendship after 60, and why the fact that it changes doesn't mean something has gone wrong with you. For most of our adult lives, friendship happens by accident. You don't go looking for friends, you find them where you happen to be. At work, in the next cubicle, through your children's school, at the gym, on the commute, at the neighborhood block party. Friendship, for most of our lives, is a byproduct of proximity. You're in the same place, at the same time, often enough, and eventually, without quite deciding to, you become part of each other's lives. And then, something changes. The job ends, the children move away, the routines that used to bring you into contact with people week after week dissolve, and you find yourself wondering where everyone went. Researchers have a term for this. They call it a friendship recession. After retirement, most people's social networks shrink, not because they've become less likable and not because the friendships weren't real, but because the structure that held those friendships in place is gone. And for those of us who spent decades building our lives primarily around work, that structure was almost everything. I've been thinking about a particular kind of friendship, the kind built on shared circumstance. You worked together for 15 years. You had coffee every morning. You knew each other's families, each other's frustrations, each other's small victories. And then one of you retired, and the calls became less frequent, the lunches harder to schedule. The shared references stopped being something you both understood. It wasn't that you stopped caring. It was that the scaffolding that held you together, the shared context, the automatic proximity, was no longer there. And without scaffolding, even good friendships have to work harder to survive. Research tells us that most of the friends we make in life are life stage friends. Friends made in a particular chapter, tied to a particular set of circumstances. And when that chapter closes, even naturally, even lovingly, many of those friendships close with it. That isn't failure. That's just how friendship works across a human life. The question is what you do with that space that opens up when they leave. Because here's what the research also tells us. Loneliness raises the risk of early death by 29%. That's comparable to the health risk of smoking, of obesity. The quality of your friendships, even one or two close ones, has measurable effects on how long you live, how clearly you think, how resilient you are. So when friendships change after retirement, and they will, what you do next actually matters. Not just emotionally, physically. But here's something I want to name before we go any further. The real reason most people don't reach out, even when they want to. It's the fear of being a burden. The quiet worry that you'll reach out and the other person will feel obligated, that you'll come across as needy, that they've moved on and you haven't noticed. But here's what the data actually shows. More than half of American adults say they don't have anyone to have a meaningful conversation with on a regular basis. More than half. The person you're afraid of burdening is almost certainly sitting in their own quiet house wishing someone would reach out to them. You're not interrupting their life. You're probably the best part of their day. Now, what making new friends actually looks like at this stage of life, we imagine it should feel the way it did when we were younger, natural, effortless. And when it doesn't feel that way, we assume we've missed our window. We haven't. We've just reached the age where friendship requires intention. A choir, a walking group, a regular Tuesday at the library, a class you take, not because you need the skill, but because you need the room. Friendship at this stage begins with shared activity, repeated proximity, showing up in the same place, often enough until something quietly takes root. The same way it always did, just more deliberately. And I want to say something about what kind of friendship we're actually looking for. We sometimes set the bar so high that nothing clears it. We wait for the deep friendship, the total, immediate, certain kind. And while we wait, we miss the friendships that are actually available. There's a friend who's enough to walk with. Someone you meet on Tuesday mornings and talk about nothing in particular. Someone who knows your name, who notices when you're not there. That is exactly what Robin Dunbar's research suggests we need most. Not hundreds of connections, but 3 or 4 people who show up, reliably, in person. Because here is what no amount of messaging or scrolling can replace. The physical presence of another person. Eye contact, sitting in the same room. These things trigger something in the body that a screen simply cannot replicate. You need to be somewhere, in person, with someone else. So, one thing. Think of one place you could show up regularly that isn't your house. Not because you'll immediately find a close friend, but because friendship is built in the space between showing up and leaving, in the small talk that gets less small over time. Pick somewhere and go back enough times that people start to expect you. And if there's someone from your past you've been meaning to reach out to, here's what I'd suggest. Don't explain the gap. Don't apologize for the silence. Just say this: I was walking today and thought of you. No need to reply. I just wanted you to know you crossed my mind. That's it. That's enough. You're not asking for anything. You're just opening a door, quietly, without pressure, and seeing if they'd like to walk through it. Most people will. Thank you for being here. Is there someone whose name just came to mind while you were listening? Leave it in the comments if you'd like, or just let me know if any of this resonated. I read every single one. Until next time, take good care of yourself. I mean that.